So, first of all, I want to give a round of applause for Senator Street for being here. Thank you so much for being here. And we also have Maurice Q. Jones of Par Recycle Works right there, right behind you guys. He's a little shy, but I need you guys, when you go home, look up Par Recycle Works. The work that he is doing with his community is one of the most important work I've ever seen in my life. So make sure that you go online when you go home and look up Par Recycle Works. Everybody say Par Recycle Works on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Par Recycle Works.
There we go. I love it. All right, everybody. Let's see who is up to speak. We're going to have David speak.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Kylie, for getting us kicked off. My name is David Menendez. I am the Executive Director of Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light. You can see my sign just below. I really appreciate you all being here. We are here, obviously, for climate, justice, and jobs. These are intimately intertwined, and for us as an interfaith organization, we see the moral imperative of this. I have a few words to read, and then I will turn things over to Senator Street. So, in any crisis, it is the most marginalized and vulnerable that suffer the greatest impacts. We know this. Climate change is no different. This state and city has disproportionate percentages of BIPOC communities living in places that are polluted with toxic waste, leading to negative health effects like cancer, asthma, and so much more. Black communities are also disproportionately located in areas that are physically vulnerable to climate hazards such as hurricanes and flooding. Make no mistake though, this is intentional. It is built into the very structure and the planning and the history of our city and communities. This is targeted violence towards Black and BIPOC communities more broadly, who are routinely pushed out of their communities and into vulnerable margins. Let's talk about jobs and unemployment though. The growth of green jobs will boost demand in our economy by reducing unemployment, make America more competitive in the global economy, and protect our public health, all of which will result in greater economic productivity and long-term economic prosperity. That's why Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light is centering this space around racial equity and justice, in seeking meaningful solutions for the climate crisis through coalition and strength building with many other organizations and individuals represented here. We emphasize the importance of federal climate provisions. What used to be Build Back Better, we are still seeking the climate provisions, the $500 billion in boldest possible climate investments today in our communities. And other policies that President Biden and Governor Wolf will be able to enact outside that legislative path, such as clean energy policy and the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. There is a moral and ethical imperative that people of faith, people of conscience can take as stewards of creation and have an obligation and a mission built into who they are. Collective strength is part of our interfaith mission for climate justice. So I ask you to join us here at tables in the future, at future events, where we will have petitions, we will have volunteer sign-ups, and many other actions to push the administration to take action today, to push Congress to take action today, because it is today, it is now, it is now, it is now that we must do these things. It is not any longer tomorrow's problem. It is not the next generation's. People are dying palpably in the world today because we are not placing the investments where they need to be. A friend of mine in a different coalition once said that every budget is a moral document. It is a profession of where we stand and what we prioritize in our lives and in our communities. Thank you so much, and without further ado, Senator Sharif Street.
All right, thank you all for being out here. Thank you for standing up for our environment. We know climate change is an existential threat. And one of our Creator's greatest gifts to us is our home, the earth. It is the place that spawned each and every one of our cultures. And our faith traditions, whether they be Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or others, all talk about in different ways respecting the earth, respecting the environment, respecting our home, this planet. The policies, the actions of human beings undoubtedly are dramatically altering the Earth's climate in ways that are causing species to die. They're causing the Earth to warm, oceans to rise, areas to flood, droughts to come in some places, while floods come in others. There's so much evidence of what's going on, and it is incumbent upon us to take action. It is incredibly important that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania take action. Pennsylvania is the third largest energy producing state in all of the United States of America. In fact, I saw one study that said 2% of the entire planet's greenhouse gases are generated in Pennsylvania. And the impact might even be greater than that when you take into account that much of the fossil fuels that are mined or extracted in Pennsylvania are processed in Texas and may be counted as Texas' impact. We have the power to make a difference. We can make a difference individually by making sure that we turn off lights that we're not using, or just use more fuel-efficient, energy-efficient bulbs, driving more fuel-efficient cars, or carpooling. But the biggest impact will happen in our policies towards energy production, in our policies towards infrastructure that supports green policies. We should be supporting electric vehicles. An electric vehicle, even if the energy that it uses, the electricity is generated by power plants that use fossil fuels, are still 75% cleaner than using gasoline-powered cars. And it would shift us from foreign oil, which we can now all know is not very reliable or dependable, towards domestically produced energy. We should be maximizing our ability to use renewables. We could be doing, with today's technology, up to 30% of the energy that we use for our grid, which we're not doing, and that's unconscionable. And for the remaining 70%, we should be looking at all of the other avenues to make sure that we're doing it in as clean a way possible, and at a bare minimum, we should be encouraging policies, and in some cases requiring policies, of fossil fuel power plants to at least capture the carbon that they're releasing, so that that carbon doesn't continue to warm the Earth. We have hundreds of gas mines that are just leaking gas, and we could cap them, and that would have a tremendous impact on that, and that doesn't negatively affect anyone's business. There is so much that we should be doing that we're not doing. We should be advancing legislation that would make resources available to insulate every person's home. That's both good for poor folks and not so poor folks whose energy bills are rising, and it reduces our carbon footprint at the same time. We can do well as we do good. We must reject the false premise that good environmental policy is bad for the economy. In fact, good environmental policy will put us at the forefront of tomorrow's economy and make us economically stronger while protecting our planet.
Yeah.
And finally, I want to say this. We talk so much about the price of doing what's right around the environment, but so little about the price of not doing what's right. What was the cost of Hurricane Katrina? What would be the cost of 20 more Hurricane Katrinas? What was the cost of Hurricane Maria that hit Puerto Rico? What is the cost of more? What is the cost of the wildfires that burned in California? The cost of not doing anything is greater than anything that the cost of doing the right thing could be. This is not only a moral imperative, it is in fact an economic one. But to not do anything would be foolish. And finally, this is not a new thing, and this is not stuck up to us. In the 1967 song Marvin Gaye, Ecology, when he says, "Mercy, mercy me," we all know the lyrics. Things ain't what they used to be. Radiation underground. Talks about the birds around us are dying. Oh, mercy, mercy me, things ain't what they used to be. Oil in the seas and the fish full of mercury. How much longer will we have to say mercy, mercy me? At some point, we need to all acknowledge that the change begins with us. It begins with you, and it begins with me. Thank you. God bless.
So next, we will have the Director of Council of American Islamic Relations, Jacob Bender, who is an ally of ours, obviously, in the city. As an interfaith organization, we appreciate CARE's collaboration with us at this event, and then we hope that we can continue to do this work to make sure that the Muslim community of Philadelphia is also engaged, because obviously we all serve different constituencies. We need to make sure that we are all in this fight together. It cannot be any one neighborhood, one faith, one color, one economic status. It has to be us all across the board. So without further ado, Jacob Bender, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom aleichem.
Mike, get the mic closer to your mouth, Jacob.
Shalom aleichem. Oh, there we are. Okay. As David said, my name is Jacob Bender. I'm the executive director of an organization called CARE, which has 35 chapters around the United States. It's a primary civil rights organization, and I have the honor of being CARE's first non-Muslim, nice Jewish boy from New York, director of this wonderful organization. For the last 10 years, I feel I've been adopted by the Muslim community, and CARE's mission is to protect the civil rights of Muslim Americans who often become targets for overzealous law, overzealous legal crimes, and we also engage in civil engagement, as well as training the next generation of Muslim Americans to take charge of the community and to enter into coalitions with other like-minded organizations, and to struggle against Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, white supremacy, and homophobia. Our mission also includes the protection of the planet. And when you see how vulnerable the planet is, when you look at photographs of the Earth from space, you can see the thinness of the atmosphere, which is only 5 miles deep. And the vulnerability of the planet necessitates all of us acting together, either on religious grounds or secular grounds or human rights grounds, or the mandated or the obligation, I would say, to protect the earth is found in all of our traditions. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all the great spiritual teachers, all the great rabbis and priests and monks and imams who have worked on climate change do so not because they are free will to act or not to act. The obligation to protect the planet is built in to the very traditions that we all follow. No matter where we come from, no matter what language we speak, the issue of climate change and protecting the earth is something that is we don't have a choice to do that. from a spiritual and religious point of view, we are obligated to engage with this issue. Much the same as we are obligated to stand up and protect people when they are confronted with bigotry or confronted with racism. Our obligation is to build a community of faith and of hope so that one day righteousness shall come down like the waters and justice like a mighty stream, when we realize that all of us are bound together, one to another, community to community, religion to religion. And so the Muslim community shall work with you from now until the planet is healed, until racism is evaporated, until Islamophobia and anti-Semitism are washed clean of a despoiled earth. The Jewish tradition that I came from talks about healing the planet. The words are tikkun ha'olam, the repairing of a broken world. And that is our mandate, and that is our challenge. Again, assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, peace be with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next up we have Andres Celine, Outreach Director for Council Member Helen Gim. Thank you so much for coming. I just wanted to mention that one of the most important reasons for Helen Gim to be part of this is because of the Community Health Act, how important that is as a first building block in this community, right? We can't underestimate how important each step of the way, from your neighborhood to your municipality to the state to the whole country and the world is. And we're so happy for Helen Gim and other leaders like her to be leading that charge in Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone can hear me okay? So good afternoon, and thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. My name is Andres Celine. I'm the Outreach Director for Councilmember Gim. On behalf of Councilmember Gim, who unfortunately could not be here with us today, I want to thank Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light for calling us here to speak on the urgency of tackling our climate crisis as a moral issue. Because we know that our generation will be one of the last with a clear opportunity to act as stewards of this planet and take the necessary steps to reduce emissions and avoid a climate catastrophe. Councilmember Gim is joining Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light in calling on President Biden and our elected leaders in Washington to make the necessary investments in green infrastructure and green jobs here in Philadelphia and across the country, because our climate cannot wait. But we also know that it cannot just be up to the federal government to address issues of environmental injustice. It is also our responsibility to do everything we can here in Philadelphia to protect our communities and address the historical impacts of pollution and toxic emissions. This is why Councilmember Gim has introduced the Community Health Act in City Council last month to address the legacies of environmental racism and the undue public health burdens that our city has placed on communities of color over the past century. This bill will allow us to take a critical step towards ensuring all of our communities have access to a truly clean and livable environment that does not put them at risk. The Community Health Act will empower the city to use its authority to fully assess how industrial projects that cause pollution will impact our communities, ensuring that industrial development does not compound, harm, or exacerbate existing disparities in historically overburdened neighborhoods. It requires that the Department of Health undertake the most comprehensive environmental justice mapping yet of our city to better understand exactly which communities have borne the brunt of industrial pollution and toxic emissions. And finally, it will require the city to analyze the potential environmental and public health impacts of any new industrial projects, in conjunction with the existing levels of pollution the community around it already faces, and provides the authority to require mitigating steps to prevent further harm from being inflicted. Councilmember Gim believes strongly that climate justice must be bound by principles of racial and economic equity, and she is committed to working hand in hand with her colleagues on council, in Harrisburg, and with PA Interfaith Power and Light to fight to protect our environment and our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So next up we have Kaylee from Climate Action PA.
Hello, you beautiful people. I am so happy you are here. I'm actually really excited. I honestly thought there were going to be like 1 or 2 people, but the fact that we got a crowd here going, I'm really happy. So, a little bit about me. I studied the environment, so I have an environmental science degree, so I've done all the little labs. I also have a social science degree, so I have a sociology degree. So, what I do in this world is try to bring that nexus together for us to understand science, to respect one another, regardless of who we are, and take some bold climate action. Look, we can do these small little things, right? But when we don't have the systems in place to do those small actions to make a difference, that's the problem, right? So at Climate Action PA, look, I've done ecological economics research. Windfall tax on big oil right now. There is a global wars happening that are happening right now. And what our organization is doing right now is combating big oil. We are going after them, and it's awesome. So, what I really want you to do when you go home after this day is to know that there are people fighting for you to push for huge legislation change, because otherwise our small little choices, yeah, they make a difference, but at the end of the day, I want the difference to be more. I want us to understand that social justice is environmental justice. I am here as a queer person. I'm here as an individual who used to work in fundraising in schools. I'm here as an individual who has done the math, science, the chemistry, all of that. And I've tried to figure out what do I have to do? I have to bring us all together and unify everyone, and we need to point at who is doing it to us. Look, there are really cool organizations like, Stop the Money Pipeline. There are financial activists that we're working with to help you understand the power of your money. We are working with people who want to have a plastic bag ban. But at the end of the day, if we keep on fracking, the ethane that comes from that fracking is going to keep making us plastics for cheap. So at the end of the day, yeah, I could choose not to have that plastic bag, but they're just going to keep funneling it under pipelines. So what am I supposed to do? This is why I think it's really important that we engage and make relationships with our people in the legislative branch, which is why we had Senator Street here, which is why we had people from Gim's office. This is why we're here. And a big part of Gen Z, and I'm Gen Z, I'm 23, is that we understand theory, we understand what we need to push, and then we are trying to call for action, right? We have so much that we have to learn together. We're all fighting for the same thing, so I honestly don't want any more of this infighting at this point. I want us all to come together and realize who is it who's doing this to us. I want everyone to say on 3 with me, windfall tax. 1, 2, 3.
Windfall tax.
Awesome. And now when you go home today, I want you to look up at Climate Action PA. Everyone say on 3, Climate Action PA. 1, 2, 3.
Climate Action PA.
I love it. I love it. So, look, I love everyone coming together. I love everyone coming together regardless of who we are. I think we can all agree that we have similar values of respect, and we want cooperation. We want our basic human rights. We want all of that. So let's focus on those we need to go, encourage. This is what we do. I encourage you. I encourage you to care about your people. Because at the end of the day, we're not about that. We're not about people who don't care about our communities. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to pass the mic over to David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. We really appreciate having, obviously, the energy of Gen Z, and we want more Gen Zers out. We also need to always keep in mind that the science is real, that this is not something that's going away, that we need to win hearts and minds on a daily basis in all of these communities. And that is a great transition to Nikki Saval's office, who I think does quite a lot to engender that kind of relationship with the community and to convey important message like climate change and climate justice. So without further ado.
Woo! Woo! Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. I'm going to stand down here. My name is Julia Tackett. I'm a constituent services representative for State Senator Nikhil Saval. Regretfully, Nikhil Saval cannot be here today, but I'm extremely proud to be with all of you here today, amplifying the call for jobs and a healthy climate and dignity and justice in everything that we do. Before working in the senator's office, I worked in the building industry for over 10 years, mostly in housing. And I've seen up close how imperative and how literally life-sustaining housing is. And I've seen how far we are from actually treating it that way. So I'm especially glad to be here today to talk about this intersection of housing and the environment and jobs, and especially thankful to Interfaith Power and Light for bringing us all together today around this message. And I'm proud to talk about the work that our office is doing around housing. We just finished up a week of action across the state launching Senator Saval's Whole Home Repairs Act. This is legislation that would fund repairs, weatherization, jobs, and the help to navigate all of it. That means folks in their own homes who need repairs, caretakers in their homes who need adaptive modifications, seniors who need changes in order to age in place, and landlords whose units need upgrades, but who are willing to commit to keeping those units affordable. For many of us, we take for granted the comforts of a home that is safe and warm and dry. We feel secure to be ourselves, to be with our loved ones, to host, to work. But for hundreds of thousands of Pennsylvanians, they're denied the anchor in their lives, that stability. Their homes can be a constant source of stress and anguish with large-scale repairs that are simply too expensive to undertake. The housing in our state, and especially in our cities, is in very bad need of repair. And we know that there are strong connections between the health of your home and the health of you and your family. Old carpets that trap allergens that worsen asthma and allergies. Lead paint that poisons hundreds of children in our cities every year. Moldy basements and leaks that are trapped in roofs and walls that cause migraines and breathing difficulties. At the same time, if you've ever called around to contractors for a quote, you know what a long and frustrating process it can be. They're busy, they don't get back to you, it takes 5 or 6 calls to get them out to the house. Our state invests in workforce development in all kinds of industries, hospitality, healthcare, school bus drivers. We need to be doing more to fund jobs in the trades, because those jobs are all local. When you have a burst pipe, you don't need a plumber 20 miles away. You need them 2 miles away. These jobs are needed right here in the community, and they're needed right now. These jobs can never be outsourced. They pay well. And as our climate changes, they're going to become more necessary, more imperative as our homes need weatherization to meet our needs. When we invest in the places where people stay safe, we invest in the people that are staying safe in those places. Philadelphia is full of residents who have inherited their homes from relatives who have sacrificed and saved to achieve the dream of permanently owning their spaces, but for whom the maintenance expenses threaten that dream. The Whole Home Repairs Act is a win-win-win, providing on one side the funding for the needs and the services to meet the needs on the other. So homeowners don't have to choose between a shower that is hot and a shower that drains. Now, this bill has bipartisan support. Our office has held a series of roundtables with stakeholders and activists from all over the Commonwealth to make sure that this legislation reflects the needs of the community. But we're not done listening. We need your voices, and we need to hear about your community needs. So when this legislation gets introduced, we want to be able to back up how important it is, how gravely needed, with each and every one of your stories and your voices and your demands. So please join us by going to psr.gov SenatorSaval.com and adding your voice to the growing list of supporters. Call your legislators, tell your friends, and ask your mom and grandma if their water stays hot, if they can make it up their basement stairs safely, if their utility bills are driving them nuts, because all of those things can be addressed with this legislation. The list of needs is long, it's almost endless, but our office is up to the challenge. So thank you everyone for being here today, for listening to me and my story, to Interfaith Power and Light, and thank you to everyone who's in this fight with us. We are excited and we are ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's obviously so important that we have representatives, elected officials here, and that we are coming together as multiple organizations. I want to introduce our policy engagement manager, Imani Reed, who will also give you some updates on some things to do and hopefully talk about some next steps.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone. I firstly want to say thank you so much for coming out and taking the time to this afternoon to be a part of this conversation, be a part of this action. Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light, as David was explaining, is looking to take a lot more actions throughout the year, so please stay tuned. And as we know, climate cannot wait, so we need to start now and we need to continue in these actions. Thank you so much to Senator Saval's office. Thank you guys both for coming and representing today, as well as everyone else. Penn Future, Penn Environment, I really appreciate it. And we just wanted to say before you leave, if you could take some time out to sign our petitions. We have some from Climate Action PA, and I'd just like to mention that Climate Action PA has had an immense help as far as this event, so we thank you so much for being a part. Please check out the QR code, and we also have I have a petition and attendance sheet, which I would love for everyone to sign before they leave. But we hope that you can join us again very soon. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you. Oh, please take some items, posters and totes.